Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Strat Gamer here, bringing you new Anno 1800 content today. And as you can see, there is a Dockland here, so we are going to talk about Season 3. But we're not going to talk about the Dockland DLC per se. Today, it's a very special video where we're going to talk about the new world record for population. So let me be very clear. This is not my save. I didn't make this. I don't have any credit to this. This was done in collaboration between aimtec and Duxvitae. I will post in the description below the link to the Ubisoft post where they posted this save and where they explain what they did, but it's in German. And they haven't done, as far as I know, any video explaining it a bit. So I wanted to provide the English-speaking community a sneak peek into this save and explain how and what they're doing. Because there's a lot of great tips for people who want to improve their game. I'm not saying you should copy exactly what they did, but to improve your game, you can definitely pick up some elements there. Okay, so before we dive in, please consider subscribing to the channel if you're into strategy games, city building games, simulations, from walkthroughs to discovering new games to tips and tricks like this video. This is exactly what I cover, so don't hesitate to subscribe so you'll never miss a new video. Okay, let's dive in with, I think you're all waiting for that, first the number. So we are at 5,600,000 people. And as you can see, it is mainly scholars, 4.3 million scholars, and then quite a bit of investor for almost 500,000, and we'll discuss why. A lot of operators, a lot of elders, and some technicians. So what does that mean? Basically, it means that the new world is covered by operators. The Arctic is almost covered by technicians, and similarly, Mbesa is almost covered by elders. And then the Old World and the Cape are split between mostly scholars and a few investors. Why investors? Well, we do need quite a bit of influence to run these sessions, and the influence is given by those investors. But the scholars provide a better, say, density of population. So let's take a look. If you look at a house of a scholar, it can get 180 people with a few of those items in the town hall. Is this one plus 15%, plus 20% resident, and plus 15% residents. So that is quite a bit. One element is indeed that the scholar residents are taking a bit more space versus normal houses, but it's a lot more people, so the density is better. Let me find um, an investor. Yeah, uh, so here is one of the investor island that is built. As you can see here, it's only 85. Sure, it is a 3 by 3 compared to 4 by 4, but in density, it just scholars are winning by far, even with those items, right? Plus 10% residents, plus 20%, and plus 10%, and plus 30% for this last one. And a few bonus residents, similarly in the scholars actually. This is the shortest population, and let me just quickly go through the other um, regions to show you that. So we are now in the old world. As you can see, all the islands are covered again by a lot of scholars and sometimes um, a few investors. Right. Then let's go to the new world. So in the new world, I said opereros, you can see, and they also do get some items, right? Don't worry about them to increase their density. And the whole map covered, as you can see. And then where did we want to go? To the Arctic. Similarly, the Arctic covered, then and Besa. And again, covered of houses with a few buildings, right? You do need markets here and there and things like this. But we're gonna get into those details. So this is how you get to 5.6 million people. You just have houses almost everywhere. Now, I guess the question you're all asking is, how do they feed these people? Because that's a lot of people to feed. When you feed them, thanks to the new export-import elements, it's a bit different from the previous trade that you had, where you could use the NPCs to sell slash buy a small quantity of goods. It was quite limited, and each of the NPC had a specific good roster, right? In the export import, the only limit is basically your stock. How much do you got? Because there's no limit on how much you can sell, and you can also get basically all the goods that you want, almost all of them. So as you can see, we're going to be selling uh, uh, penny farthing bikes against the resources that we need for our scholars. So now you say, okay, but you still need to produce those bikes, right? And indeed you do, and they are doing that here in Crown Falls. Why Crown Falls? Well, because you get the most space here, right? And because of that space, what you can do is what's called building clipping. Um, Let me show you. Building clipping is having two trade unions, can also be Arctic lodges or town halls, impact the same building. So here, let's take, for example, this one. This bicycle factory here is impacted by this trade union here and that one here. So what it means is that you actually get double the bonuses or twice the items that you put in each. And therefore, as you can see, the sort of end productivity is huge, 650%. Plus on top of this, you get the, let's say, side bonus of these items twice, right? And in particular, with Bruno, you get advanced weapons and steam motors, so you get that twice. And with Dario, on top of replacing steel by iron, which makes it quite easy, you also get pocket watches and gramophones. So again, you get them twice or um, in half the cycle if you prefer. So all of this is gonna so all of these means you get a huge production of bicycles. Um, that production is we can check, in your production tab, or maybe let's do it here. And we can check how many buildings we actually got or what production we have. And you can see we have 87 across across the Cape, and most of them double clipped. So here it is. As you can see, we can take a trade union and we can then see them covering the whole city by clipping, 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 and at each of these intersections, you put a bicycle factory. And then all the rest of the space you cover with scholars because you do want as much population as possible, right? So that means here you're producing a huge amount of bicycle, and for that you just need the iron and the caoutchouc. And what that means is you will also in your Dockland export import, as we saw even in that first island here, we were getting some caoutchouc, right? And in some other, we're also getting some of the iron, plus you can see we're producing iron a bit everywhere. So that is basically how you'll feed them. We're going to produce, oh, and maybe it's, sorry. And the last element is because of this extra production of steam, advanced weapons, pocket watches, gramophone, as replacing steel by iron, what happens is, let's say in terms of money, you're producing a lot more than what it costs you to produce it, which means that when you export, you can basically get first, you can sell what what you produce to get back the resources to produce them again, but you're left with elements. And what you're left with enables you to actually feed your people. So a lot of people are saying that this is a bit broken, right? Because it's you're taking advantage of the exchange rate in a sense that's not that's fixed. But this is how the game is set up for now, and this is what aimtec and Duxvitae have done to take advantage of that. Um, Now, a few other elements is, as I said, you're building it here in Crown Falls, then you do need some trade routes. Um, you're gonna have, for example, some of the key trade routes. So you can see quite a few, huh? There's not just one. A few of them are bringing back the caoutchouc that you're getting, you're selling in these islands, you bring it back there. Then you're gonna need to also do the other sessions, we're gonna talk about that. But I wanted to show you these ones. You do need to send all those bikes that you're producing here to the different islands, so that then in those islands they can sell them. Otherwise, you're going to sell them here, but then you need to send all of the resources, so that will be more. And because you don't want to have too many ships, because ships cost influence, or on the way back, they're actually taking the caoutchouc back. Then what happens is you send the weapons to the old world. Check here. It comes in the old world, and then in the old world, that's what you're gonna sell. And then in the old world, that's what you're going to sell. Let's take a look. So the weapons arrive, and then you sell them to get the goods. Again, to feed your population. So on the ships, they've used cargo ships because the influence cost is lower than the others, like the Extravaganza, the Great Eastern, and they put those two items. This one is very critical if you've seen my video on the best items for ships, and movement speed, loading speed, cargo slowdown. It covers it all. And this one just focuses on movement speed, but plus 35%, so that's quite huge. So obviously to create something like this, you start with a few islands, but you do need other islands to keep, getting you wood and steel and all of this. So usually what I would suggest is you keep crown force up until the last moment. So you keep building, you keep producing wood and producing steel on Crown Falls. You build all the other islands, and then at the end because you also have a lot of storage on Control, you can use that storage to have a lot of wood and replace it by the houses. Now, a few small elements is, of course, don't forget to reach 33,000 attractiveness so that your bonus in the palace is maximized. And let's find the palace. I think remember showing it here, yes. So it's obviously not a beautiful palace, right? It's optimized for space, but you can see that the palace is level 25 here for the attractiveness, and that's what you want to be able to reach um, this maximum 300 island workforce per town hall. This is not really important. This one is 60% productivity for production trades. This one is critical. Influence for public buildings. So instead of needing, a market, or in the case of scholars, a university every few blocks, you actually need very few, and we can check how many. And then here the storage is quite critical. They've chosen storage, as I said, power plant also extended, because that way you only need really, I think it's like 5 power plants for the whole Corn Falls, usually only one per island. Then one more item slot per trade union is critical. You can put then ferrous in it and get 50% more productivity. The plus 250 attractiveness per completed culture set, that is critical to get to actually this 33,000. And then 200 attractiveness per town hall is also critical to get to that 33,000. So one thing I promised to show you is how many buildings they actually have in an island like this. So you can see it's 4 gas power plants. So you don't need the rails that are going to take space. I think there is one power plant. Yes, there is one, but it's just next to the sea. So you see, here is the only rail on the whole map. Similarly, the number of radio towers and universities is very low, 5 and 6. But this, with the bonus of the palace, it reaches everywhere. One small detail to explain is how do they get so many iron mines? You do that with the research institute. In the research institute, major discoveries, you can go to Mystery of Nature and change your deposit. Or so any mine can become an iron mine. The other thing that they probably used quite a bit, and as you can see maxed out the cost of these two, is move the clay deposit and move the oil springs to put them, in corners like this one. You put them in the corner here, um, and the oils, we can click here on it and see it's also on a corner. They probably don't need the oil at all. Like they don't produce any of the oil. Why? Well, let's check out here. You'll see here are the mines, right? And the mines are actually covered with uh, jorg. I'm sorry for my pronunciation, which produces oil in one-to-one cycle. So that's huge, and that's why you also have all these ships, oil tankers, now leaving from Crown Falls to feed the other islands. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, 5.6 million people, mostly scholars, and they are just fed bicycles. Bicycle is the only production. I mean, there are some very small production, especially in Mbesa, because it's harder to get those goods through the export-import, but otherwise that is it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out in the comments below or to reach out to the actual creators of this save in the link that I've also provided below. Once again, this is not my save. I have no credit for this. This was done in collaboration between aimtec and Duxvitae. I have the link below to where they posted that save if you want to try it yourself, and also don't hesitate to leave them a message to thank them for this crazy achievement. Uh, Thank you for watching and hope to see you next time.